Good afternoon. Well, it's the day before the 4th of July, in which we celebrate our independence. But has that changed? Are we not now dependent upon a dictator who, by law, by our court, by the 1/3 of our government, in our tripartite government, has declared that a president can do any damn thing he wants and he's immune? Well, let's keep that in mind. Second thing that we should be considering is how easily hosts and experts are talking about how this decision should be applied. Stop the music. If we don't challenge this, we'll never stop Trump. If we don't fight when the line is drawn in the sand between democracy and monarchy, then we have failed to preserve and protect our nation as conceived, despite the participation of Federalists who agreed to this, but who now, after all this time, demur and say, no, you don't understand. It doesn't work that way. Those who give solace by trying to construct and apply this game that the Supreme Court, the 6th of the 9, created in order to make Trump president and to give him power to change our government entirely, those who would just sort of passively accept that are cowards, or misplacing their hope and trust in a system that doesn't work. The notion that they should be good losers, well, you know what a good loser is good at? Losing. People who lose and, quote, do the right thing, lose again and again and again. And the right thing, and there is a right thing here, it is to fight and to resist and to attack this decision and what it really means, instead of shaving points and pretending that it's not what it is. A bald effort to take over our democracy and replace it with a monarchy, with a failed casino operator at its head, and people speaking out of both sides of their mouth, declaring how they're helping us when they're screwing us to the wall. So, what's the temperature, by the way? Jefferson says it's about 85, and the wind's about 4 miles an hour. Not bad. I think the way we should look at this as it's halftime, like we're at a game. And we're in the locker room. We have to decide what to do. And I think we have to characterize what's happened in the last week. Our candidate to preserve and protect the democracy had a bad night. No question about it. Fair question, is it only one bad night? And the answer is, I don't think anybody can know, and unless and until we have some definitive proof, we charge forward. Second, the Supreme Court has empowered the presidency with king-like powers, a veritable coronation. A coronation of criminality protected by the fact that this person is above us, not equal to us. No man is equal in this government that the Supreme Court has created, because there's one above us, all above us. And people mock their faith when they think of him as Jesus. Jesus was empathetic, he was caring, he was giving, and that's the historical Jesus. This ahistorical, meaning Trump, a contradiction in everything that we thought of as the presidency from George Washington forward, is a scourge upon our democracy, a cancer like nothing Nixon would have even contemplated. Another one is, to summarize, the judge has pushed back the sentencing. Does anybody have any balls? Does anybody get it? We are in the fight for our political life. And that means our freedoms. That means how our members of our family are treated and the children that are not yet born. Whether we can breathe the air and drink the water. Whether a woman is sacrosanct in her own body. Whether a person of color is treated the same as somebody else. And these are just a few of the things. So the judge has pushed back the sentencing and given them more time to discuss this frivolous appeal, rather than in a summary fashion saying, yeah, I've looked at it, it's bullshit, it doesn't change a damn thing, we're going forward with the sentencing, and we're doing it on July the 11th. But we're not. The sentencing is now on September the 18th. Do they all break down? Do they all fall apart for fear of being courageous, faithful to the original promise that was America? All men are created equal. All men are equal before the law, and women. That's what we have. And we have the politically misguided who buy this swill or are ambitious and sucking the air out of Biden's campaign for president by pushing the VP to replace Biden. That puts her in a bizarre situation. What is she saying to whom? And Biden can't talk to anyone because they all run to the press and tell him what he said. And now I understand why Hunter's there. Hunter and the family members are there to give him the strength to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. To run interference, if you will, with youngsters who are more concerned about their job than the history of this entire confrontation. What kind of people are going into public service? Transactional people, the people who take and run, the people who don't sacrifice, the people who have no ideas to fight for? Is that what America's become? Well, if that's true, then Biden and everybody else should just leave their jobs. But as far as I can tell, Biden doesn't believe that. And for him believing that, he's treated as some sort of miscreant, that he would have the nerve to continue to fight. Will I be pissed off if we find out when 3 weeks from now or one day before the election he fails and dies of a heart attack? Not if in good faith he believes at every moment until that he is okay. And if he dies one day after he swears to be president, I can embrace the vice president and the entire line of succession. Because that's what our country was supposed to be about. That's how it's supposed to work. That's a fair summary of what we have. Biden should be telling people one and all, since he can't trust any opportunity to get decent advice from any of them, because they all posture and use it themselves, for whatever agenda they have, for whatever reason they have, good or bad. And so he should say, I'm going. I have to go, and I'm going. I'm running for the presidency, and I'm doing it for all the reasons I've said all the time. Biden and others should be saying an entire branch of the government, by 6 of its members, presents a clear and present danger to our republic. That's a nice question. By this damnable opinion that the court gave, seeking to end our democracy by making our president a king, should we be asking our president to arrest them or investigate them as a clear and present danger to the democracy? His oath is to preserve and object. The Supreme Court has said that he can do anything he wants with impunity. So he's not going to do what some might consider a crime. He is going to preserve and protect the structure of government as intended in the Constitution and as experienced for most of the years of our nation's existence. He would be defending the nation to preserve and protect the democracy when others would favor a monarchy. Not acceptable. Now let's talk about a couple of things. And I'd like to go back to this. Trump, during the debate, gave Biden a rough time about how he was moved by what happened in Charlottesville, how he found it disgraceful, racist, deplorable. And he didn't use those words, but all of those apply to the sentiment he expressed. And that's what pushed him over the edge to do that. That and his son, who said he should do it, he should run. And Trump said, there are good people on both sides. And anybody who saw any of it didn't believe that. But now a hate group has been directed by the courts for their role in that 2017 racist rally to pay $9.7 million for what they did to the people on that day. Finally, have we learned how to stay the course? You know, I was a Sputnik kid and I'm affected by that. But when you look at the soldiers at Iwo Jima erecting a flag, when you talk to or see or hear what happened on D-Day, when, say the press secretary jumps in front of Reagan and takes a bullet so that Reagan isn't shot with that bullet, but another one, and that press secretary paid for the rest of his life, compromised by that bullet wound. It's no accident that JFK's book, Profiles in Courage, is indeed a thin book. But he'd be hard-pressed among the people who are making our decisions today to include any of their biographies in such a book. And that's disgraceful. Is there anybody who can show us grace, who can show us courage, who can show us resolution, to remind us to come together for the principles that were cited and that we've tried to preserve and protect and create imperfectly from that day to this until we had this criminal in the White House? So, when people start running down Biden, realize he's been saying what needs to be said. He was considered a young boy orator, in part because he overcame difficulties speaking. He was fooled and kidded mercilessly as a young man because of a stutter. My daughter had a stutter. I have met presidents of huge corporations who had a stutter, who reach out and tell other children of their story and what they can do and how they can do it. I ran against a man for Congress, Frank Wolf, and he had a stutter when he was young. But you don't hear Republicans attacking him, nor should they. Nor should they attack anybody who has any kind of difficulty, because when put together genetically, or whatever happened in youth or life, has compromised them. And whether it was jet lag or one of the instances that catch a person as they're old for a single day, that's not enough to declare Biden out of the game. But everything that Trump does argues that this is a foul man who has no business even being considered to be president. And our Constitution provided for that, but nobody used the tools that the founders that we so often praise. They're ignored. It's not acceptable. So, America's being tested. And some of the people write to me, tell me, one woman wrote yesterday that she sends little gifts out to remind people that's what she can do. It helps her, makes her feel good. She's doing something. And she's having an effect. Each of us has to do what we can. Because we can't wring our hands when this is all over and when all the politicians are saying, wow, I never thought that would happen, because that's what they say. They have to believe that their life is in it, that there's skin in the game, theirs and ours. And that we can't allow this miscreant, this felonious loser, to become president because we don't fight. I often say you can't win the argument if you don't make the point. Well, you can't win a fight if you don't bash your opponent in the face. And I'm not arguing for violence. I'm arguing for resolution and strength and courage and believing, as we must, that our nation is in the greatest risk it's had, even worse so than the Civil War, because we are being taken apart without a gun being shot. That is dangerous. There's only one person I knew as a kid that I read about who took over that way. And it wasn't purely that way, but the most dramatic movements into running the government were by taking the system and turning it on its head to favor him. That was Herr Führer, Hitler. Trump is the worst parts of Hitler. All of them. So, that's what I got today. Sorry if I was a little too energetic in my opposition to the worthless people who are out there talking as if this is over, when this is when we get ready to fight, when we must fight. Decided to start the campaign now instead of Labor Day. Good. Then let's use the time well. So I say goodbye to you for the day from my Cathedral of Trees. Bye-bye.